Thank you for this opportunity to speak at Developer Day. I'll be diving into how low-code platforms are closing the developer gap and powering a highly differentiated customer experience. And what an exciting time to talk about customer experience. CX is really the new frontier to truly differentiate your product or service. In the last decade, we've seen an explosion in the amount of customer data being generated, the number of channels to connect with your customers, and just rapidly changing consumer behavior towards digital and self-service. This is creating a massive opportunity for brands. And across every industry, interesting to watch how companies that were born in the digital-first world are rapidly becoming market leaders. Whether it's brands like Netflix, Instacart, Lemonade, they're redefining what the consumer experience, what an effortless consumer experience should look like, and setting the bar that's forcing every other competitor to catch up. Unfortunately, for most companies, they struggle to connect with their customers in a digital-first way and creating a truly consistent experience across every channel. Today, we'll discuss how low-code platforms can help solve this gap and enable companies to provide an effortless and world-class customer experience. My name is Stephen Hikian. I'm the CEO and co-founder of AirKit. For context, before AirKit, I helped launch the first AI-powered CRM platform called RelateIQ. We were acquired by Salesforce, and within Salesforce, we were inspired to launch AirKit. We saw companies that wanted to drive more automation, that wanted to provide more effortless consumer experiences across every channel. We left to solve this problem. In the session today, we address what's new with low code for CX. We highlight key features and considerations for any CX developer to think about before buying a platform, and we'll discuss some real-life customer examples. I always like to zoom out and kind of think about the macro tailwinds powering this opportunity, and the biggest opportunity was over the last 18 months, the rapid adoption and change of consumer behavior towards digital self-service. It felt like overnight we were all forced to adopt new channels, and specifically new digital channels to connect with brands. We were actually curious to understand which industries were impacted the most, and in a recent survey, we actually discovered industries like retail and grocery, media, entertainment, banking, insurance, three industries that kind of lagged behind in terms of digital adoption before COVID. They saw the largest adoption in the last 12 months. Retail and grocery grew almost 30% in terms of digital adoption. Media and entertainment grew about 20%. Banking and insurance, we saw about 17% increase by consumers in new digital solutions. This is permanent changes, and as we emerge from COVID, we believe this migration toward digital is only going to accelerate. So I want to double click into the three industries I just highlighted, retail and grocery, media, entertainment, banking, and insurance, and just highlight the market leaders in each category. Instacart, Netflix, Lemonade, they've redefined what the customer experience is. They've eliminated a ton of effort. In a lot of ways, you can just go to the website and with a few clicks, you can get an insurance quote. You have media at your fingertips, or you can order groceries. Before COVID, I think CX was a nice to have. These brands have kind of defined that a great CX is a must have, or your risk of going extinct is very real. And a great customer experience isn't just good for business, it's also amazing for your customers. When you think of customers, in a recent survey, we showed that 40% of customers are likely or very likely to switch your provider, your cell phone, your cable, your utility, your insurance company for a better digital experience. As a consumer, there's never been a better time to be a consumer. We have unlimited options and very low switching costs. So every touch point matters. So I think everything I just said, I think everyone agrees with, but unfortunately, building a great customer experience is hard. What we see with our customers, they have a wide adoption of legacy back-end systems. For example, like a CRM system, ERP, contact center solution. The problem, unfortunately, is these systems don't do a great job of talking to one another. So you create a lot of fragmentation of the customer journey. It's the reason why when I call a brand, that experience is very different than if I go to the website, which is different than if I use the mobile app to then if I chat with an agent. There's no consistency across these channels, and the context doesn't carry forward. The second big problem is companies know they want to go digital. There's a backlog of projects that teams are being asked to build by sales, service, and marketing. Unfortunately, it's hard to find best-in-class talent. I think we can all attest to the fact that finding great engineers, product leaders, designers It's really hard today. So an interesting stat is in the US alone, there's a shortage of 1 million software developers today. That gap is only widening. The third thing that I want to highlight is most companies are not software companies. The idea of building everything in-house from scratch is a very slow and arduous process with high risk. Timelines are measured quarters to years, and by the time you finish a project, it's kind of already outdated at that point. So those are 3 key problems we find today, and it actually kind of goes back to why we started AirKit and kind of what we heard from the developers. At the time, we saw a rise of automation, companies that wanted to reduce manual, complex workflows, specifically any workflows that touch the customer. Part of that automation is needing to hook into back-end legacy systems and extend that data to your customers. The second big piece and problem for almost every company was the big gap between the individuals that were close to the customer, the people on the lines of businesses, and then the developers who are building the solutions. There really wasn't a lot of coordination or communication, and developers were kind of operating in isolation. So a big opportunity we saw was how to bridge that gap and bring developers and business users closer together to co-create. And this idea of kind of co-creation, of kind of making software more approachable to business leaders and make it easier for developers to build is not new, right? There's this constant tension between buy versus build, but this has been going back for decades now. Over time, more and more enterprises are moving away from building everything from scratch to more moving towards acquiring software platforms that provides a certain foundation of pre-built components and business logic. And I just want to draw a little timeline of events here. We saw, again, given our experience, definitely inspired by Salesforce, pioneering cloud-based CRM platforms. They made it easy for developers and business users to quickly configure sales service marketing solutions. You see the same trend if you think about IT service management with ServiceNow, a visual environment that makes it approachable for both business users and back-end IT administrators to process. I also want to highlight e-commerce. Shopify is a great example. Storefronts went online, the ability to stand up your storefront very quickly, and the ability to, with clicks and no code or limited code, to be able to configure that storefront. That same analogy of moving away from building everything from scratch and to more configuration and customization can be seen with the ability to apply low code to customer journey. How do you provide a consistent experience from that first touch point at the top of the funnel to the most recent service ticket? How do you make sure there's that consistency with context along that way? So we really see the opportunity here with low code is kind of extending a trend that's been going on for decades now. And the trade-off versus buy versus build, it's really kind of both. How do you enable a platform that can enable internal teams to rapidly build on top of a common platform? And fortunately, not all platforms are created equal. In the past, there's always been this stark trade-off between hardcore customization and convenience and speed. If you chose to build in-house, you had the utmost freedom to customize your solutions as you see fit. But as we previously talked about, the timelines to do so could be years. On the other side of it, legacy low-code platforms, it was kind of trying to squeeze everything in a one-size-fits-all model. You had speed with very structured templates, but you didn't have a lot of ability to customize or quality and ideas around security as well were minimized. Modern platforms help bridge that gap and kind of meet the nice balance of customization and speed and convenience. I saw an interesting stat recently that in the next 2 years, about 75% of enterprises will have adopted at least 4 low-code platforms. So it's telling me the market's moving away from these general monolithic platforms into more purpose-built applications. And when you think about customer experience, a couple key considerations you should be thinking about. One is extensibility. Companies, the cloud's here. Companies have adopted cloud-based systems. Those systems have APIs that you can access, read and write data from. In order to power a truly unique and personalized experience with customers, you have to be able to connect that data in the back end to the customer experience. Second thing I want to highlight here is omni-channel. It's not a new term. Unfortunately, omni-channel is not enough. It's not enough to just be able to connect the customers across every channel. You have to be able to provide a consistent experience across these channels. So again, if I'm calling into the brand versus going to the website versus chatting online, you should be able to have a same experience with the same context carrying forward across these different channels. We focus today, again, with low code, you can think about web channels, mobile, and voice as great places to start. Again, with customer data, you have to think about security and compliance. It's got to be foundational to any platform. Building these features yourself in-house is time-consuming. It's arduous, and there's liabilities associated with it. You have to choose a platform that is up to date on its compliance. Thinking about HIPAA, SOC 2, PCI, and GDPR, those are foundational elements that have to be baked into the fabric of any platform you choose. The last thing I want to highlight here is the ease of branding these experiences. Again, touching the customer, you have to make sure the look and feel matches the corporate style guides. With low-code platforms, you're able to upload corporate style guides to make sure every click, every button, every progress bar is on brand. And that brand should be consistent across the channel. Whether, again, you're in the mobile experience, you're on a desktop, you're on a web page, you're calling in with a consistent voice experience, that's all got to stay consistent. What's really interesting about low-code platforms is just the speed to rapidly prototype, to be able to go from an idea to design, prototype, and build. And part of that speed comes from the reusability of both front-end components, UIs, but also back-end integrations. The ability to kind of build an integration once and then reuse that across business units and organizations. The second piece is testing. Testing is extremely important. The ability to debug these applications in that platform, debug across the channel and across devices. The last piece is launching. The ability to, with one click, publish an app, move from a staging environment into a production environment, and also deploy these globally across data centers. These are elements of modern low-code platforms you should be considering today. And let me just highlight a couple real-life customer examples of how developers are actually using low-code platforms to power self-service journeys. I want to touch on MetLife. MetLife is a leading global insurance company, and one use case was actually life insurance enrollment. It's a heavily regulated experience. In some ways, they're still delivering paper-based forms that employers are providing to employees to sign up for life insurance. There was a desire to digitize the experience, and thinking about moving away from paper forms, which unfortunately tend to have a high dropout rate and low completion rates with high error intake. It's hard. With paper forms, you don't have validated fields. So with AirKit, their team in about 3 months was able to launch a fully self-service end-to-end solution that was able to hook into the back-end systems, provide an outbound communication across email and SMS, to provide a consistent self-service web experience to fill out a digital form. What's interesting about this experience was you were able to incorporate nudging techniques, proactive nudging through SMS and email, to pull that customer through that workflow. The result of that was a 50% increase in completion rates, as well as a massive shift in uptake in the customer satisfaction. Now, shifting gears, OpenTable is a great example of a two-sided marketplace where they're servicing about 30 million diners per month on one side of the platform and about 60,000 restaurants worldwide on the other side of that platform. OpenTable offers live chat to provide support. They still see a majority of customers are using phone support. There was a desire over the last 12 months to scale with more technology versus adding more headcount in the contact center. So they were able to leverage AirKit to integrate into their contact center solution to enable customers to opt in for self-service, get a text message, move to live chat, or a digital self-service experience. By routing calls from the IVR, OpenTable was able to transition over 10% of calls into a chat experience, thus lowering the operational costs and accelerating time to resolution. The last experience I want to highlight is Turo. Turo is a fantastic company that enables car owners to share their cars with guests as part of the peer-to-peer car sharing network. They are global. They have hundreds of thousands of cars being picked up, returned, cleaned, and booked every day. Turo needed a self-service way to manage common customer requests. Before AirKit, their contact centers were overloaded with requests for such things as late return flows or requests for additional usage fees. There were long wait times, and instead of having to continue to staff your contact center with people to handle tier 1, tier 2 support, AirKit was able to plug into their contact center solution, enable customers to avoid long wait times, and move into a digital experience to literally capture information and push it back into their back-end systems. By reducing the amount of time agents had to be on the phone to collect that data, we actually saw a 40% decrease in the average handle time and a boost in the customer satisfaction as well. And just want to wrap it up here. Thank you again. I think what we've seen the last 2 years is the rising importance of delivering a great experience. It's no longer just a nice to have, it's an absolute must have to be able to provide a consistent experience across all channels for your customers. The other side of it is companies know that. Historically, companies have struggled to figure out how to resource and build those experiences in-house. With the adoption of low-code platforms, you're able to provide your customers and your teams the abilities to make your developers more productive by using a common platform, as well as to help bring business users closer to that application development process and get their feedback for a tighter feedback loop. So with that, thank you very much. If you have any questions or like to learn more, please visit us at airkit.com. Thank you.